morning sun streamed through the airport windows as Dr. Maya Richardson checked her watch. She had exactly 45 minutes before boarding would begin for her flight to San Francisco. Just enough time to review her keynote speech notes. One more time. As the founder and CEO of Health Tech Innovations, a company revolutionizing medical artificial intelligence, Maya had built something extraordinary from nothing. Starting in her apartment 5 years ago, she now led a team of over 200 brilliant minds and had just closed a funding round of $50 million. Today's tech conference would put her innovations in front of the industry's biggest players. Maya smoothed down her charcoal gray blazer and adjusted her simple gold necklace, her mother's, a reminder of where she came from and how far she'd traveled. Her hair was pulled back in a neat bun, her face showing minimal makeup and the slight tiredness that came with running a growing company. Now boarding our first-class passengers for Flight 2187 to San Francisco, came the announcement over the speakers. Maya gathered her sleek leather briefcase and carry-on, making her way to the priority boarding line. She handed the gate agent her boarding pass and ID. "Enjoy your flight, Dr. Richardson," the agent said with a smile. The jetway was cool and dim as Maya walked aboard, nodding politely to the flight attendants stationed at the entrance. She found her seat, 2A, window, and placed her carry-on in the overhead compartment before settling in. A flight attendant with a tight blonde ponytail and a name tag reading Patricia moved through the cabin, offering pre-flight drinks to the other first-class passengers. She smiled warmly at the older white gentleman across the aisle, chatting briefly about the weather as she handed him a glass of champagne. When Patricia reached Maya's row, her smile tightened. "Excuse me, this is the first-class cabin," she said, her voice carrying just enough for nearby passengers to hear. Maya looked up from her phone. "Yes, I know, I'm in 2A. She gestured to her seat. Patricia's eyes narrowed slightly. "May I see your boarding pass, please?" Though she had already been checked twice, at security and at the gate, Maya produced her boarding pass without comment. She was used to these moments. They no longer surprised her, though they never stopped stinging. Patricia examined the pass with unusual scrutiny before handing it back without a word. No offer of a drink, no welcome aboard. She simply turned away. "Excuse me," Maya said quietly. "Could I have some water, please? I'll be back with the drink service after takeoff," Patricia replied curtly, already moving to the next passenger, a young white woman whom she immediately offered champagne with a bright smile. Maya took a deep breath and returned to her phone, sending a quick text to her assistant confirming her hotel arrangements. She couldn't let this distract her from tomorrow's presentation. As the remaining passengers boarded, the first-class cabin filled. Patricia moved efficiently through the space, stepping carefully around other passengers' legs, making cheerful conversation, remembering names. When she needed to reach across Maya to hand a hot towel to the passenger in the aisle seat, however, Patricia physically pushed against Maya's shoulder without a word, pressing her uncomfortably into the window. "Excuse me," Maya said more firmly this time. Patricia didn't acknowledge her, continuing her conversation with the other passenger as if Maya weren't there. The businessman in the seat behind Maya cleared his throat loudly. He had noticed. Others had too. Maya could feel their eyes, some sympathetic, others pretending not to see. Maya's phone buzzed with a message from her VP of Operations. "Investors confirmed for dinner after your keynote. They're excited to meet the woman changing the future of medical diagnostics." The irony wasn't lost on her. Here she was, about to shape the future of an entire industry, yet she couldn't even count on being treated with basic courtesy on a flight she'd paid thousands for. Maya put her phone away and stared out the window as the plane backed away from the gate. She thought about all the meetings where she'd been mistaken for the assistant, all the times security had stopped her in her own building, all the moments just like this one. As the plane accelerated down the runway, lifting into the clear blue sky, Maya made a decision. This time would be different. This time she wouldn't let it go. The fasten seatbelt sign dinged off and conversations bubbled up around the cabin. Maya took out her tablet, trying to focus on her presentation slides, but her mind kept returning to the incident. Patricia continued to move through the cabin, warm and attentive to everyone except her. When the drink cart finally came around, Patricia handed Maya's water without making eye contact, then lingered to chat with the man beside her about his golf trip. Maya sipped her water silently, watching the clouds drift by outside her window. First time to San Francisco? The question came from the businessman behind her, leaning slightly forward. Maya turned and smiled politely. No, I go about once a month for business. Same here. I noticed what happened earlier. He lowered his voice. Not your first time dealing with that kind of thing, I bet. Maya's smile tightened. Unfortunately not. You should say something. I'd be happy to back you up. Maya thanked him, then turned back to the window. She'd heard this advice countless times before. People always thought speaking up was simple. They didn't understand the calculations that ran through her head each time. She thought about the conference tomorrow. 500 industry leaders would be watching her presentation. She couldn't afford to be labeled difficult or angry before she even stepped on stage. One complaint could follow her for years in an industry where everyone knew everyone. Her mother's voice echoed in her mind. Pick your battles wisely, baby girl. Some fights aren't worth the energy they steal from you. But then her father's voice followed. And some fights need to be fought not just for yourself but for those coming behind you. Maya closed her eyes, thinking about her journey. Growing up in a middle-class neighborhood in Chicago, parents both educators who'd sacrificed everything for her education, the scholarship to MIT, being one of 3 black women in her computer science program, the venture capitalists who'd asked if someone else would be CEO when she sought her first round of funding. She'd earned her seat in first class. She'd earned her right to basic respect. The plane hit a patch of turbulence, shaking briefly. Patricia rushed to check on an elderly man across the aisle, touching his arm gently. Are you all right, sir? Can I get you anything? Maya watched the simple human kindness she was being denied. Her company had just developed an algorithm that could detect early signs of pancreatic cancer 3 months earlier than traditional methods. She had meetings with hospital systems that would implement technology saving thousands of lives. Yet here she was, invisible. Her phone buzzed with an email from Tanisha, her chief of staff and best friend since college. Good luck on the flight. Text me when you land. And remember, you're changing the world no matter what anyone thinks. Maya smiled at the timing. Tanisha always seemed to know when she needed encouragement. 2 rows ahead, a white woman in business casual attire was being served a special meal with extra attention. Dr. Wilson, right? I made sure the kitchen prepared your vegetarian meal exactly as requested. Maya's hand tightened around her water glass. She was Dr. Richardson too, but Patricia had yet to use her name or title once. As the flight continued, Maya's mind drifted to her team. The brilliant engineers, data scientists, and medical researchers who believed in her vision. The young black girls who wrote her letters after seeing her on the cover of Tech Innovator magazine. I didn't know someone who looks like me could do what you do. This wasn't just about a rude flight attendant. It was about patterns that persisted across industries, across decades. Small moments that built walls, created doubts, reinforced the message, you don't belong here. Maya pulled out her notebook and began to write, not her presentation notes, but a different kind of plan. By the time the captain announced their initial descent into San Francisco, she had filled 3 pages. She wasn't going to create a scene. She wasn't going to let this ruin her trip or distract from tomorrow's presentation. But she wasn't going to let it slide either. This airline transported thousands of passengers daily. How many others had experiences like hers? How many had stayed silent, assuming nothing would change? As the California coastline came into view, Maya tucked her notebook away and straightened her blazer. She had made her decision. This time would be different. This time she would use her position to create change. The plane touched down with a gentle bump, rolling toward the gate at San Francisco International Airport. Passengers around Maya began gathering their belongings, powering up phones, and unbuckling seatbelts despite the illuminated sign. Maya remained seated, reviewing the notes she'd written. She knew exactly what she wanted to say and how she would say it. Professional, direct, solutions-oriented, just as she handled everything in her business life. As first-class passengers began to deplane, Patricia stood near the exit, smiling and thanking everyone. "Enjoy your stay in San Francisco," she repeated warmly. When Maya approached, Patricia's eyes slid past her, focusing on the passenger behind. "Excuse me," Maya said, her voice calm but firm. "I'd like to speak with the lead flight attendant before I deplane." Patricia's smile tightened. "I'm sorry, but we need to prepare for the next flight. If you have feedback, you can submit it through the airline's website." "I understand you're busy," Maya replied, "but this matter requires immediate attention. Is there a supervisor I can speak with?" The businessman who had offered support earlier stepped up beside Maya. "I'd like to speak with someone as well. I witnessed everything." A second flight attendant approached, sensing tension. His name tag read Robert. "Is there a problem here?" "No problem," Patricia said quickly. "These passengers want to file a complaint, but we need to prepare for the next flight." "Actually," Maya said, turning to Robert, "I'd like to speak with whoever is in charge of this flight crew. I've experienced concerning treatment during this flight, and I believe it warrants immediate discussion." Something in Maya's tone, the quiet confidence perhaps, made Robert pause. He nodded. "I'll call the flight manager to meet you at the gate." 10 minutes later, Maya stood at the gate speaking with a woman named Diane, whose badge identified her as the flight service manager. The businessman and an older woman who had been seated across the aisle waited nearby, having offered to share their observations. "I want to be very clear," Maya said, taking out her business card and handing it to Diane. "This isn't about hurt feelings. This is about a pattern of behavior that targeted me specifically and created a hostile environment." She described each incident in detail, the questioning of her seat assignment despite having already been verified twice, the different treatment regarding pre-flight beverages, the physical pushing, the consistent refusal to make eye contact or extend basic courtesies offered to other passengers. "As CEO of Health Tech Innovations, I travel frequently, often on your airline. I've never filed a complaint before, despite occasional less than stellar service. But what happened today crosses a line that shouldn't be crossed." Diane nodded, taking notes. "I sincerely apologize for your experience, Dr. Richardson. This doesn't reflect our company values." "Values are demonstrated through actions, not words," Maya replied. "I don't want just an apology. I want to know what specific steps will be taken to address this issue." The two witnesses stepped forward, offering their perspectives. The businessman described how differently Patricia had treated Maya compared to him. The older woman mentioned she'd noticed the same pattern and found it disturbing. "Here's what I'm requesting," Maya continued. "First, a formal investigation into this incident. Second, a review of your training procedures regarding unconscious bias. And third, I'd like someone from your executive team to contact me directly to discuss how your airline plans to ensure all passengers receive equal treatment." Maya handed Diane a written account she had prepared on the plane, along with her contact information. The witnesses added their names and numbers as well. Diane assured Maya the airline took these matters seriously. "We'll investigate immediately. You should hear from someone within 48 hours." Maya thanked the witnesses for their support, then headed toward the exit where her driver waited. Her conference presentation was tomorrow morning, and she needed to focus on that now. As she slid into the back seat of the town car, she checked her phone. 3 missed calls from Tanisha, 2 emails marked urgent, and a text from her mother asking how the flight went. "How was the flight?" her driver asked conversationally as they pulled away from the curb. Maya looked out at the San Francisco skyline, appearing through the fog. "Enlightening," she replied. "Very enlightening." She sent a quick text to Tanisha. "Landed safely. Something happened on the flight. We'll call later to discuss next steps." Maya wasn't naive. She knew how these complaints usually ended, with empty apologies and discount vouchers. But she had a feeling this time might be different. Because this time, she wasn't just a passenger who had been mistreated. She was a passenger with power. And she intended to use it. Maya's keynote speech the next morning went brilliantly. Standing on stage in front of hundreds of tech industry leaders, she presented health tech's newest breakthrough with confidence and clarity. The audience responded with genuine enthusiasm, and afterward a line of potential investors and partners waited to speak with her. "That was incredible," said a hospital administrator from Boston. "Your AI diagnostic tool could transform how we identify early-stage cancers." Maya smiled, handing him her business card. "My team would be happy to schedule a demonstration next month." Through it all, the meetings, the networking lunch, the investor dinner, Maya kept checking her phone. No call from the airline. No email response to her complaint. Nothing. By the third day of the conference, as Maya packed her hotel room belongings, she finally received an email from the airline. She sat on the edge of the bed and opened it immediately. "Dear valued customer," it began. Maya's eyebrows raised, not even addressed by name. The message was clearly automated, a generic apology for any inconvenience experienced during your recent flight. It offered 5,000 bonus miles as a gesture of goodwill and assured her that customer satisfaction remains our highest priority. Not a word about the specific incidents. No mention of the witnesses. No indication that anyone had actually read her detailed complaint. Maya called the customer service number listed in the email. After 20 minutes on hold, she reached a representative who had no record of her previous complaint details. "I'm sorry for your experience, ma'am," the representative said flatly. "I can add 2,000 more miles to your account." "I don't want miles," Maya explained patiently. "I want to speak with someone who can address the substantive issues I raised in my complaint." "I can transfer you to our feedback department," the representative offered. Another 15 minutes on hold resulted in a voicemail system. Maya left a detailed message, emphasizing that she expected a call back from a senior team member within 24 hours. No one called back that day. On her return flight, deliberately booked with a different airline, Maya opened her laptop and typed airline discrimination complaints into the search bar. The results were eye-opening. Dozens of stories appeared from travelers describing experiences similar to hers. Many specifically mentioned the same airline. Social media threads contained hundreds of comments from business travelers, particularly women of color, who had faced questioning about their first-class seats, received noticeably different treatment, or been physically disregarded by flight staff. One woman had documented 11 separate incidents over 2 years of frequent flying. Another had compiled video evidence of different treatment. Many had filed formal complaints. Almost all reported receiving the same generic response, an apology and some bonus miles. Maya checked her professional networking app and found she was connected to several people who had shared these stories. She sent them private messages, asking about their experiences and what responses they'd received from the airline. The replies came quickly. Everyone had received the same brush-off. No one had seen any evidence of change. A week after returning home, Maya finally received a call from someone identifying himself as a customer experience manager at the airline. His message was polished but empty. More apologies, more offers, of miles or upgrade vouchers, but no concrete discussion of how the airline planned to address the underlying issues. "We take these matters very seriously," he assured her. "If that were true," Maya replied calmly, "you would have contacted me within 48 hours as promised. You would have interviewed the witnesses who offered their contact information, and we would be telling me about specific steps being taken to prevent similar incidents." The manager seemed caught off guard by her directness. "I understand your frustration, Dr. Richardson. Perhaps we could offer you complimentary first-class tickets as compensation." "This isn't about free tickets," Maya said. "This is about respect and equal treatment for all your passengers." After the call ended, Maya sat at her desk, staring out the window at the Chicago skyline. The airline clearly had a well-practiced system for containing these complaints. Apologize, offer minor compensation, and wait for people to give up. They were counting on passengers having neither the time nor the resources to push further. They were counting on individual voices remaining isolated and eventually falling silent. But they hadn't counted on someone like Maya, She picked up her phone and called Tanisha. "Remember that airline situation I mentioned? I need you to pull some data for me. Specifically, I want to know how much our company spends on air travel each year, and with which airlines." The data Tanisha gathered was eye-opening. Health Tech Innovations spent over $3.2 million annually on air travel, with nearly half of that going to the airline that had mistreated Maya. As a rapidly growing company with offices in 4 cities, they had negotiated a corporate rate with the airline 2 years earlier. "That's a lot of money," Maya said, studying the spreadsheets in her downtown Chicago office. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the lake behind her, the afternoon sun making the water sparkle. "And it's increasing every quarter as we expand," Tanisha added. "Our travel budget is projected to reach $5 million next year." Maya tapped her pen thoughtfully against her desk. "Who handles our corporate travel arrangements?" "Alicia in operations. Want me to call her up?" 30 minutes later, Alicia sat across from Maya and Tanisha, explaining the company's travel policies. "We book about 80 flights per week for our team members. The corporate account gives us significant discounts and perks like free upgrades and priority boarding." "What would happen if we switched airlines?" Maya asked. Alicia looked surprised. "We could, but we'd need to negotiate new rates. It might cost more initially." "Why are you asking?" Maya shared her experience on the flight and the company's dismissive response. "I've since connected with 15 other business travelers who've faced similar treatment. Most of them are women of color." Alicia's expression changed. "Actually, 2 of our engineers mentioned something similar last month. I didn't realize it was a pattern." "It is," Maya said, "and apparently, it's one the airline isn't interested in addressing." That evening, Maya drafted an email to her board of directors requesting an emergency meeting. She outlined her experience, the company's inadequate response, and the stories she'd gathered from others. She concluded with a proposal. Health Tech would suspend its corporate account with the airline until they demonstrated concrete steps toward addressing discrimination. The board meeting took place virtually the next morning. Maya wasn't sure how they would react. Business decisions were typically made based on costs and convenience, not principle. "I understand this might seem like an overreaction to a single bad experience," Maya told the 12 faces on her screen. "But this isn't about me personally. It's about our company's values and where we choose to spend our money." The CFO looked concerned. "Switching airlines could increase our travel costs by 15% during the transition period. That's significant." "E.T. Agree, it's a financial consideration," Maya acknowledged. "But there's another way to look at it. Our company mission statement includes creating an equitable future through technology. How can we claim to stand for equity while financially supporting a company that allows discriminatory practices?" The head of human resources spoke up. "I'm concerned about the message we send to our own employees if we do nothing. 40% of our staff are people of color. If we know about a pattern of discrimination and continue our business relationship anyway, what does that say about how much we value them?" Maya hadn't expected this support. The conversation shifted, with board members asking thoughtful questions about alternatives and implementation. By the end of the hour, they had voted unanimously to support Maya's proposal, with one addition. They would clearly communicate to the airline exactly why they were suspending their business relationship. "This isn't just about one company taking a stand," the board chair said. "It's about creating real consequences for bad behavior. Maybe then they'll actually listen." After the meeting, Maya called her friend David, who ran a popular tech industry newsletter. "I have a story you might be interested in," she said. "Not about me, but about a broader issue affecting business travelers." That afternoon, Maya's assistant connected her with the CEOs of 3 other tech companies in their network. All were intrigued by Health Tech's decision. 2 revealed they had heard similar complaints from their own employees but hadn't considered using their corporate accounts as leverage. "The thing is," one CEO told Maya, "any single company pulling their business won't make enough impact. But if several of us did it together—" "Exactly what I was thinking," Maya replied. By the end of the week, Maya had drafted a letter outlining their concerns and demands for change. 5 company CEOs had agreed to sign it alongside her, collectively representing over $15 million in annual business for the airline. As Maya prepared for a weekend visit to her parents, her phone buzzed with a notification. The airline stock had dropped 3% after David's newsletter mentioned that multiple tech companies were reconsidering their corporate relationships with the carrier over discrimination concerns. She hadn't even made the call yet, and already the message was getting through. "Ready for your big move on Monday?" Tanisha texted. Maya smiled. "More than ready." Monday morning arrived with a flurry of meeting requests and media inquiries. David's newsletter story had sparked interest across the tech industry, and 2 business news websites had picked up the story over the weekend. Maya's phone hadn't stopped buzzing since she woke up. "The airline's PR team just requested an urgent call," Tanisha said, poking her head into Maya's office. "They want to clear up any misunderstandings." Maya smiled. "Not yet. Let them wait. First, let's make our call." She settled behind her desk and reviewed the document she and the other CEOs had prepared. It outlined 3 specific demands: a thorough investigation into discriminatory practices, mandatory bias training for all customer-facing staff, and a transparent reporting system for passengers who experience discrimination. At exactly 10 a.m., Maya dialed the number for Thomas Wilson, the airline's chief customer officer. His assistant answered but quickly put Maya through when she identified herself. "Dr. Richardson," Thomas said, his voice smooth with practiced charm. "I understand. There's been some concern about your recent flight experience. I want to personally assure you that—" "Mr. Wilson," Maya interrupted gently. "I appreciate you taking my call, but I think you misunderstand the nature of this conversation. I'm not calling as a dissatisfied passenger seeking an upgrade or bonus miles." She could almost hear him shifting in his seat. "I'm calling as the CEO of Health Tech Innovations, representing our $1.6 million annual corporate account with your airline. I'm also joined on this call by the CEOs of 5 other companies who collectively spend over $15 million with your airline annually." A pause. "I see. We've prepared a document outlining our concerns and what we believe are reasonable expectations for addressing them. I'll email this to you during our call, but before I do, I want to be clear about our position." Maya's voice remained calm and professional. "All 6 companies have voted to suspend our corporate accounts with your airline, effective immediately, until we see meaningful action on these issues. We're not asking for perfection. We're asking for genuine effort and transparency." The silence on the other end lasted several seconds. When Thomas spoke again, his tone had shifted from customer service smoothness to business seriousness. "Dr. Richardson, obviously we value our corporate clients. If there are specific concerns about service quality—" "This isn't about service quality," Maya clarified. "It's about a pattern of discriminatory treatment that multiple business travelers have experienced. I've documented my own experience in detail, and we've collected similar accounts from dozens of other travelers." She continued, "What's most concerning isn't that these incidents happen. Unfortunately, bias exists everywhere. What concerns us is your company's consistent failure to acknowledge or address the problem." Maya sent the email with their detailed proposal while still on the call. "You'll see we're not making unreasonable demands. We're asking for the same things many organizations have already implemented successfully." Thomas cleared his throat. "I'll need to review this with our executive team." "Of course," Maya replied. "We understand this requires discussion. We're giving your airline 2 weeks to provide a substantive response and action plan. After that, we'll be moving our business to your competitors, permanently." "And if I may add," Maya said, her voice softening slightly, "this isn't just about the 6 companies on this letter. We've received messages from dozens of other corporate clients who are watching how you handle this situation. The potential business impact is substantially larger than what we represent." After the call ended, Maya sat quietly for a moment. She hadn't raised her voice. She hadn't made threats. She had simply stated facts and offered a path forward. Her phone buzzed with messages from the other CEOs who had been listening to the call. "Perfectly handled," one wrote. "He definitely got the message," another added. Tanisha knocked and entered with fresh coffee. "How did it go?" Maya looked up at her friend. He listened, really listened, for the first time. Do you think they'll actually change anything? Maya sipped her coffee thoughtfully. They might not want to, but I think they'll realize they can't afford not to. Within an hour, Maya received an email from Thomas's office confirming receipt of their proposal and requesting a follow-up meeting later that week with their CEO and entire executive team. The airline was finally paying attention. 3 days later, Maya sat in a sleek conference room at the airline's headquarters, surrounded by their entire executive leadership team. The airline's CEO, a tall man with silver hair, led the discussion. First, Dr. Richardson, I want to personally apologize for your experience, he began. It falls far short of our standards, and the way your complaint was handled afterward was equally unacceptable. Maya nodded but remained silent. She had heard apologies before. What mattered now were actions. We've reviewed your proposal, he continued, sliding a document across the table. These are the steps we're prepared to take immediately. Maya read through the pages carefully. The airline had agreed to all 3 of their core demands and had added several additional commitments. They would conduct a thorough investigation into discriminatory practices, implement comprehensive bias training for all staff, and create a transparent reporting system. But they had gone further. They proposed creating a customer advisory board focused on diversity and inclusion, with Maya offered a seat. They committed to reviewing their hiring and promotion practices to increase diversity in leadership positions. And most surprisingly, they requested Maya's company to help develop technology for tracking and analyzing customer complaints to identify patterns of bias. We've been approaching this all wrong, the head of customer experience admitted. We've treated discrimination complaints as isolated incidents to be resolved individually, rather than looking for systemic issues. What about the flight attendant who pushed me? Maya asked. Patricia has been suspended pending investigation, the HR director replied. But we recognize this isn't about one employee. It's about our culture and our systems. Maya studied the faces around the table. I appreciate the comprehensive response, but I've seen companies make promises before when facing public pressure, only to quietly abandon them later. The CEO nodded. That's why we're proposing quarterly public reports on our progress, published on our website and shared with all corporate clients. Complete transparency. The meeting continued for 2 hours, discussing implementation details and accountability measures. By the end, Maya felt cautiously optimistic. This didn't seem like a superficial reaction to bad publicity. The airline appeared genuinely committed to change. As the meeting concluded, the CEO asked Maya to stay behind for a moment. This situation has been eye-opening, he admitted once they were alone. I've been with this company for 20 years, and I've always prided myself on running a good operation. But I'm realizing now that good isn't the same for everyone. Maya appreciated his honesty. Most discrimination isn't intentional, she replied. That's what makes it so difficult to address. People often don't see what they're not looking for. 1 month later, Maya received the airline's first progress report. They had already implemented the new reporting system and begun staff training. The Customer Advisory Board had met twice with productive discussions about improving the travel experience for all passengers. Patricia, the flight attendant, had been required to complete extensive retraining and was now actually helping to develop the bias training program, sharing her own learning experience with colleagues. The story had spread throughout the business world. 3 other major airlines had proactively announced similar initiatives, hoping to avoid similar situations. Maya had received countless messages from business travelers thanking her for taking a stand. You've started something important, Tanisha told her as they reviewed the report together. This goes beyond one airline now. Maya smiled, remembering how close she had come to staying silent on that flight, how easy it would have been to accept the mistreatment as just another bad day in the sky. 6 months later, Maya boarded a flight to London for an international medical technology conference. As she settled into her first-class seat, a flight attendant approached with a warm smile. Dr. Richardson? I recognized your name on our passenger list. I just wanted to say thank you. I've been with this airline for 15 years, and the changes, You helped create have made it a better place to work for everyone. The flight attendant handed her a glass of champagne. We're honored to have you flying with us today. As the plane took off, Maya looked out at the clouds below. One person couldn't change everything, but sometimes one person could start something that changed more than they ever imagined.